Have you been thinking or experiencing what parts of yourself you bring to work and what you hide? What parts are safe to show and what are quite inconvenient and you choose to try to hide them, leave them out so that you fit in? Today, that's the topic what we are gonna dive into. And also, it is what I will be advising you not to do and show you also how your brain is going to agree with that. Because our brains are the ones who are wired for belonging, not for exclusion and non-inclusion and fitting in. Before I start with our brain science, let's have a little bit of a reality check through some research from Gallup in 2024. 20%, every fifth of us feels lonely at work. That is a sign that all these activities around inclusion and let's bring all our full selves at work is not working. Because if still every fifth feels lonely at work, they are fitting in. They don't feel they belong in. And of course, if you are in that state, you are not at the most productive, the most innovative, and the most well-being state. But usually this stat doesn't yet still impress the leaders that I talk with even. Because they say, you know what, Zora, not in our company. In our company, we have this inclusion, HR does this inclusion program and everybody feels fine. And we have our pizza parties and people seem to be smiling there. Well, the moment when I then describe what happens in our brains when we are feeling belonging and feeling exclusion, that's when the executives usually say, well, let me have a look at that inclusion plan. And where's HR? I need to take it from them. Because suddenly, 10 minutes ago, it was HR's accountability. And now it feels like a CEO or executive accountability and business liability. So let's have a look about that as well, how our brain kind of reacts to it. And that's where we're going to, in a moment, start. What is the brain science of belonging? And then we look at how do we move from covering up to showing up, not showing off, which is part of kind of the problem, but to showing up as our true selves. And then what do high impact leaders do? And then the last bit is 4 questions, how you can start sparking this in your teams. Very shortly about me. I'm Zora, based in Switzerland, 20 years in HR, different types of companies. I'm a licensed psychologist, evidence-based methods. Everything that I share is evidence-based, plus also neuroscience-based. I also help executives and cultures to level up the way they operate in their teams and the cultures they build. So let's start. What's the brain science of belonging? And let's take it soft. I will show you the good news first. I will show you the best case scenario first. And then afterwards, we will see why inclusion is costing you a lot. So belonging is basically feeling of inclusion, feeling that I can show up here as myself. In our brains, we have, if we start the loop from the very, very top, in our brains, we have something called, it's as I would put it in a city analogy. Those who have followed me before know that I talk about brain as a city. So the posterior superior temporal sulcus is actually like a social radar, like the social media hub. And it's all the time reading cues from the environment. Am I seen? Do I matter? Now, if you think about the caveman did not have Instagram or anything to like things. But the caveman knew that as long as he or she is in the tribe, he has a better chance to survive. So also a caveman needed these to read not Instagram likes, but actually kind of like facial cues and body gestures so that they knew, am I in or am I out? Because that was a question of life and death. So you have this kind of social radar in your brain all the time checking in. Hey, do I belong here or don't I belong here? Now, in a case of belonging, let's imagine you join a new team, or you go into a dinner where people are gonna look at you and smile at you, give a kind of cues, physical and gesture cues that you are welcomed and you belong in. They will speak to you and ask questions from you. What will your brain do next? Well, there's another part in your brain called striatum, which is like the economic board, the reward center that collects points and says, this is good or this is not so good. And once you get that confirmation, that eyesight, that smile, that question from someone, the striatum lights up like a Christmas tree and says, yes, we have a point. And this is good. We are in, and we are in the game. And what that means sends information to your central alarm system. The amygdala says, no threat here. You know what? We seem to be in a good place. This environment, this party is safe. And the good news is, as we know, when the amygdala is not activated, your city hall, your thinking brain can be. So that's the prefrontal cortex then lights up and says, all right, so we can think and think creatively and grow and develop and build visions and build strategies. And there goes one memory of belonging into the city archives, which is the hippocampus. Now imagine next time you go into this party or to this meeting or to this team, the brain has already that memory of a good sense of belonging. So the social radar, as long as it continues to do this loop, is starting to assume, yes, I am expected here and I belong here, because the city archives, the memories start to accumulate, and the amygdala feels like I don't need to even go check in the archives if there are bad memories, because I know there isn't. So you know what? We are safe. So that is the kind of an environment where you grow, you create, and your brain is relaxed and it's operating in the prefrontal cortex, which is the thinking brain. Pretty cool, right? For those who want productivity, innovation, growth, trust, performance, all of that cool stuff. Right. Now comes the less nice circle and why your non-inclusion and exclusion is costing you. Right. So when you're trying to fit in, let's imagine that same team, you go in there or party, and instead of the smiles, the hellos, the probing and the openness, you get side eyes or grumpy faces or no eye contact. And you get very visibly given the signal, this is not, you are not welcomed, or perhaps nobody is welcomed in this team. Often that's the case. If nobody feels welcome, nobody knows how to welcome others as well. All right, so let's see what happens. Again, your social radar goes on, like the little Instagram feed in your brain, and nobody gives likes. Nobody taps on the likes. And your brain goes like, well, I'm not seen and I don't matter. And then your amygdala says, okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are jumping in. Something is wrong. And it sets the central alarm system on and alarms the body, there's something we need to tackle and solve. And there's a part of your brain called anterior cingulate cortex, which is then in charge of taking care of the pain. And if you remember, social injury social shaming or social pain, the body reads it just like physical pain. Let me say that again. The same part of the brain that is dealing with physical pain, when you burn your finger or you punch your knee on a chair or whatever, that's the same team that goes take care of the pain. Now here is a social injury, and the same team says, hold on, we are going to fix this pain. This is not good. And as we've learned, as long as the amygdala and the kind of central alarm is on, there's nothing happening in the city hall. The logical, the thinking brain, the growing brain, the strategic mind, the thinking big brain is not on. And what happens into the hippocampus, to the city archives? One memory of exclusion goes there. And that memory will define very much how people feel next time when they come to this party or to this meeting. So already before going there, the amygdala would be sending hippocampus kind of like a memory that, hold on, pull all those memories out of how bad it felt to go to this meeting or to this team where you felt excluded, where nobody really was interested in you or asked questions or smiled or made you feel at ease. So already before going there, you start to feel anxious. And who knows, you cancel. You say, you know what, I'm sick today, I can't come. How many of you have done that? I have as well. I'm honest about this. I have also in my life experienced teams where I did not feel welcome. And then, yes, it's a biological response to fear to then try to avoid that. And this is costing you. This is the 20% where people feel lonely and not excluded, not included, and try to fit in and think like, okay, next time when I go in, how shall I behave, or what shall I say, or what can I say so that they would accept me the way I am, well, or at least part of me, they would accept me. You hopefully see the difference between when you are trying to fit in versus when you are belonging in. Then let's move into looking at, so how do we move from a place of cover up to show up and not do the show off? Because this is where then high performers get sometimes a bit stuck. So let me help you to look into this one. But before we do that, I'll first share a point about Brené Brown, which is because true belonging only happens when we present our authentic, imperfect selves to the world. Our sense of belonging can never be greater than our level of self-acceptance. Vulnerability sounds like truth and feels like courage. Truth and courage aren't always comfortable, but they are never a weakness. So it is about how do you start to open up instead of shut up and close down yourself. And how does that look like? If you are in a cover-up, where you are in a cover-up, you are looking for perhaps empathy, but you trigger sympathy. You are looking for, you want to share, but you get a kind of like a hangover, and then it's almost like a one-off moment. So when you are covering up things, you end up shrinking yourself as well, and not sharing things about yourself. If you are then in a more moving towards showing up, you still try to perhaps impress others and try to fit in, but you are definitely not in a place where you are expressing your true self. So when you are covering yourself, it comes from a place of, if I really show myself here truly, I won't be seen, I won't be accepted. But if those who are trying to show off is more around, if I shine hard enough, people won't see how scared I am. And again, it has nothing to do with vulnerability and self-acceptance, and everything to do with kind of covering up and fitting in. But if you are then more in a place of showing up, you know that, you know what, I am wanted here. I am appreciated in here. That is when you come into this place of self-acceptance, but also belonging. And you know that I can be as vulnerable here as I want to. It's not about oversharing, but it is about sharing the truth, your truth. And you know that it is safe to be who you are in there. So you shift from covering up, which is driven by this fear of rejection and concern about how am I going to be perceived? How vulnerable can I be here? And you shift to maybe showing off, where you then start to think, okay, well, instead of covering up, I need to show off, which often high performers then try to do, which is still driven by insecurity, but not yet belonging in, because there is this insecurity and fear that what if they truly see who I am? This is not going to be well appreciated. And then you move into more showing up, which is more genuine, and that's belonging, where you feel like I can be vulnerable. I accept myself as I am. I feel safe here, that my team also accepts me the way I am. And that's where the true belonging then happens. And how do high impact leaders do that? I received a question about how to show up vulnerability in a way that doesn't come across kind of like overly like a confession type of a thing. So here it is. So what the high impact leaders do is that they be vulnerable first. They don't expect their teams to be the ones who go first and show vulnerability, but they go first. And there's a difference between being vulnerable and oversharing. And I can tell you a story about myself. I used to be a volleyball player, and not anymore. You can't see, I'm rather tall. And I was not the most popular one, I must say, in the team. I was the tall, awkward one. That kind of reputation followed me for a long time. That's a different story. And but there was this great person in the team that everybody loved, and she had a funky way of laughing. And that was an interesting one, because if I look backwards, I personally was thinking, like, how do I fit into this team? So what do you think I did? Well, I started to mimic her. This is the cover up. This is the cover up of mimicking the way others are acting. So I started to mimic her and laugh with that same funky laughter. And it worked. It worked. I kind of abandoned myself with a smile and covered up. I couldn't show off with that one because, of course, I mean, it was hers, but it was a nice way of covering up. But it still sticks to my mind, because it was one of those moments I consciously, now I can say that it was a conscious choice to laugh in that way, that I consciously took the decision to kind of self-abandon in order to fit in. And then if I reflect into my kind of journey in the corporate world afterwards, I've done differently. I've chosen differently. I have walked away from teams where I felt that I didn't fit in anymore, because that can also happen quite quickly. A leader changes and suddenly, whoop, I'm covering up. I'm in that circle of exclusion rather than circle of belonging. So why am I sharing my story here? Is that the way you present, how high impact leaders present insights about themselves, is from a place of reflection, not from a place of confession. So when I talk about my volleyball story, I don't seek for pity. I don't. I don't look for empathy from you. It's more authentic, genuine me. It hopefully sparks ideas, because maybe you will understand and think, I've done similar thing in my past. It helps to create trust, and that kind of vulnerability builds over time. Versus confession, if I would have blurbed out all my childhood trauma, whatever, that's more seeking for empathy. It triggers sympathy and then creates a hangover. Like, why did I say anything like that in public? And it's more of a one-off, never again type of a thing. So that is to answer the question that I got as well. How do high impact leaders create inclusion and show vulnerability without kind of jeopardizing their role and position in the team, and also not oversharing? It is by twisting it into a reflection and inviting like that, and making it safe to invite others in the team to also self-reflect in a way. So covering up, showing off, or showing up. When you show up as truly yourself, like Brené Brown says, and you accept the ugly parts of yourself, your past, your experiences, and you look at them from a place of reflection, that's how you can use vulnerability, and that vulnerability will be the one helping you to connect with your team in a place where actually the amygdala starts to lower down. Because when people get vulnerable as well, when people open up, the oxytocin levels start to go up. And that is the trust and bonding hormone that helps us to feel seen, feel heard, and feel connected as well. But yeah, there's a difference between oversharing and vulnerability. And here's the way how to make sure that you don't kind of overstep and end up doing it as a confession with a hangover, but you do it as a reflection that builds trust. So, what are the 4 questions that you can take away from this session and start sparking belonging with your team? Before we go in there, just a reminder, next week, Friday, we will tap into is fake harmony your team strategy? Feel free to join me on that one. And here are the 4 questions. And this is, by the way, this is not, I've seen that happen as well. Some leaders ask for vulnerability without being vulnerable. But you always have to answer this first. You have to go first, not to impress, but to invite and not to force. So here we go. The first one could be, what are we pretending is fine that isn't? And you go first, and you don't force anybody to say anything. This is not like a way to get the team to speak up, Because if they haven't, if people have been masking, hiding, fitting in for a long time, it's really hard to maybe feel that it's safe. Their brain is still on that I don't belong loop. And so you can say, what are we pretending is fine that it isn't? And you can say, well, we are pretending maybe that it's fine to not have conflicts in this team, but actually that's not fine. And I feel that we would be so much more at ease if we would learn to have a way to argue with each other in a safe way. And I know, and you can then also, instead of point the fingers to them, you can open up about yourself and say, you know what, I know that I have a way as well that I react sometimes very, very logically, over logically into the situation, and that shuts down some of the emotions. So I recognize that, and my reflection is, how can I help conflicts become more safe by me being more open to the emotions that the team is having? So that could be a way of starting to spark belonging and making it safe to share. Or the second one, what's unsaid that needs a safe space? And then you go first. What do you feel is unsaid that needs a safe space? And you can say, you know what? What's unsaid is perhaps the fear of losing jobs. It's a volatile world, and maybe we all are wondering what's going to happen next. And that maybe, or it includes myself as well. And my reflection out of it is that it's ambiguity. And I will share with you, you can trust me to share with you as soon I would know anything that would impact your future, and that you can rest assured that I have your back as well. So it can be, in a way, helping your teams as well to know, especially in this world environment, that you know what, you are there, and there is safe space to talk about maybe the fears people have about losing a job, or what happens in the world. Or what part of yourself do you still hide at work? And then you could say, you know what, one part that I hide at work is that I miss being a father. Maybe you feel like you are not enough at home, or can't contribute, or you are a working mother, or you would like to be more with your kids, or whatever that is. And you can share. My reflection is that I really need to help myself balance more about that. Or you can say, what I'm not sharing openly is that I'm going through a divorce, and this is something that might put me in a place that not every day I'm at my best. So as a reflection from that, please do let me know if I'm coming across too edgy. And the last one is, what do we joke about because we're scared to name it directly? Yeah, often we end up, a lot of these kind of fitting in behaviors come through jokes. So that could be something. And you say, we joke about inclusion, or we joke about women, or minorities, but actually we feel that there is really a big dialogue to have a conversation about that. So there you go. I will put it into the lounge afterwards, so you can find it there. There are a couple of questions. What advice would you give someone who feels pressured to conform to a specific workplace culture that doesn't align with their values or style? My answer is run, move, find the one that does, because if you are not, you are in that red kind of stress cycle, and it's going to hit your well-being quicker than it will hit their results. So most probably you are going to be trying to fit in for a longer time than you should. So if you start to sense this is not my place, something is off here, trust your gut in that way as well. And if you have a chance, find something else where you truly belong and where you can feel you are accepted from day one. Usually those first signs come very early. So vote with your feet. That's my advice. And another one, what are some common pitfalls you've observed when people focus too much on fitting in? Whew. Well, here's the truth. This whole topic of culture fit is like the opposite of diversity, because you would want actually bring culture adds. Like you are trying to convince people to look at, hey, does this person fit our culture? But at the end, there is the shadow side of the culture nobody is speaking about. So how do we help people to understand that, you know what, fitting in is not the aim? Adding in, what does this person add in? How do they add into this team? How do they add into this this culture instead of trying to fit in? And I think I would really recommend people to stop using this culture fit approach, because it's really misleading and really damaging. Because then people get dissed by saying, well, this is not the way our culture is, instead of saying, you know what is the add that this person is bringing? So my view is the most common pitfall when people try to do too much fitting in is to see it as there's nothing that I can add, and understanding what is it that I add, either to the culture or to the team. And they all kind of self-abandon themselves instead of saying, no, actually, this is who I am, and I'm going to take that and take the space and find the space where it's going to be accepted and appreciated. Thank you so much for your time today, and thank you for the questions, and hope to see you next week as well. Bye for now.